Okay, so uh, morning everyone. Thank you so much for joining our final first role fundamental session of the year. Today we're going to hear from Sally Allen, Senior Consultant at Deloitte Digital, and Adam Crawford, CRM Marketing Manager at JP Morgan and Chase, on building unshakable confidence and how to master personal branding and communication. As mentioned, today is a very informal session, so we're going to keep it quite chatty. We're going to get a little bit of audience participation from you guys, some questions that Sally and Adam have throughout the session. So it'd be nice to kind of hear from you guys. But I will say, if anybody isn't feeling particularly confident, doesn't want to speak on camera, we do have the chat function as part of today's meeting as well. So please just pop any questions or any comments that you want in the chat, and Adam and Sally can pick those up and answer them later on in the presentation. Without further ado, I will pass on to Sally and Adam. I'm not going to spotlight so I can see everyone's faces, but hopefully you should be able to see who's speaking depending on how you've got your Zoom set up. But yeah, without further ado, on to you guys.
Thanks, Mel, and thanks to everyone for joining us on a Monday morning. Hopefully, no one just had the panic of I'm sitting in my PJs and Mel's telling me to turn on my camera, because that's definitely probably what most of us would do on our usual Monday morning. As Mel said, this is our last First Rules Fundamentals, so it's really lovely to have you all here. Can I just get a bit of a show of hands of who's maybe joined some of our First Rule Fundamental sessions previously? Okay, a couple of people and a couple of new people. That's great. So just a little bit of background around what are these first role fundamental sessions and how does that link into the broader marketing society. So you can see this middle bar here where we have the Future Leaders Advisory Group, or otherwise named FLAG, which is a great acronym. It could be a lot worse. That is something that myself and Adam are part of. There is a cohort of us that are part of this group who help support some of our first role fundamental sessions and also some of our future leaders work that feeds into the broader marketing society. Our first role fundamental sessions, for those who haven't joined them before, are aimed at people who are in their early years in their experience within the marketing industry. So you could be coming straight from university, you might already be in university, or you might have had a wee bit of time in your current role in an industry already. However, these sessions are really aimed at kind of having a bit of a discussion and a bit of talk about some of the kind of fundamental things that might be relevant for your role and helpful for your role. So those are fed directly down from the flag group. So we have a think about what sessions we want to run and what we want to talk about in them. We are also linked into our Future Leaders Network. So you can see that that's got 3 to 6 years experience in the industry. So a little bit more experience, but it is a very lovely group and it is welcome to everyone. These link into the broader marketing society future leader events, which you may have been to, where we bring in some of our business leaders and members and fellow marketing society members to talk about some of their experiences in their field. And we try and correlate those sessions with our first role fundamental sessions as well. And then more broadly, the Future Leaders Advisory Group links back into the Marketing Society board. So everything that we show and tell to you, we run past them, and all the feedback that we get from these sessions, we feed back to them as well. So while we might be a little subgroup, we're very, very connected into the strategy that Marketing Society has in Scotland as well. So just a little bit of blurb and background. A little bit of intro to us. So, as Mel said, my name is Sally. I am a senior consultant at Deloitte, but a more relatable name is that I am a service designer and I lead our sustainability practice within Scotland. We also have Adam on the call. I don't know, Adam, if you want to do a quick intro.
Hey everyone, yep, and like Sally, I've got kind of interchangeable names. Mel and I were joking that at the kind of start of the call. Some call me a CRM marketing manager, some call me a growth manager, some call me a lifecycle manager, some call me an associate. But I work for JP Morgan Chase down in London.
Adam.
And yeah, so first of all, and as Mel said at the start of the call, if you're not confident to actually, come off mute and say, you can post in the chat. Would be good to kind of know a little bit about you guys. We've got people from different universities here. We've got people from LS Productions, Seafish, etc., etc. So if anyone wants to come off mute and say kind of a little bit about them, and perhaps like if there's anything you guys want to get out of this session, that'd be really good for Sally and I. We can kind of answer those questions on the go. as we're doing our slides as well. So, take it away if you want to.
So I'm Jodie Ann.
Hey,
I just finished my master's at Strathclyde in August. I done marketing and I've started at Sibcas, which is actually my family's company. It's a modular building company, and I'm right now the marketing executive, but it's just me here. There's no one else that does marketing. So my manager thought it would be good for me to join the society and start gaining more knowledge. And like you guys said, if I can ask questions whenever I feel. But this is the first time I've came on to any of these. So I've not got any questions yet, but I probably will at some point.
excellent. Well, hello and welcome. And that's really cool. And the Marketing Society undoubtedly will be brilliant for you. So, very good shout there. Anyone else?
Yeah, I don't mind going. Yeah, I'm Jess. I'm with Tesco Bank, but I'm soon going to be with Tesco Insurance. And I did a degree in infectious diseases, so nothing to do with marketing. And I'm also starting a role as a marketing exec. So yeah, I don't really have much questions now, but I'm just kind of excited to get stuck in and see what tips you've got and things like that, and just learning more about the industry.
Nice, good stuff. Will we make it, I don't know if it's lucky, but a lucky three, and then we can move on.
I can go if you like.
Um,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
Anyone, go for
You
it.
can both go. You can both go. How
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Ollie first and then Fatma?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
okay.
perfect. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I'm Ollie from LS Productions. It's interesting to be here off the back of the Future Leaders one. That was really like about creativity. Now we're gonna follow up with this about personal branding. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, we're just from LS Productions. We're down in Leith. We're a production service company and production company.
Hey, Ollie, and I think we had one more there. So feel
Yes.
free. Yeah. Hey, Fatima.
Hi, I'm Fatma. I'm the event coordinator at the Marketing Society at the University of Stirling. Yeah, I don't have any questions. But very excited to about the partnership and everything. So yeah.
Good stuff. Well, hello everyone. And we're probably going to say this a couple of times throughout the session. If you do have questions throughout, whatever we're chatting about, please feel free to either post in the chat. Mel will kind of mediate and she can interrupt us, or just come off of mute. We're not worried if you interrupt us, and we can just chat anything through. So yes, you're all very welcome. So getting to know me. I This is going to be a really interesting comparison between Sai and I. I've been marketing from the get-go, pretty much. So I started out at Queen Margaret University in an undergrad doing PR, marketing, and events. So it was pretty much between the three at the time. I worked for IKEA Edinburgh, sales in the bedrooms department. So an expert in all things bed, cupboards, mattresses, etc. While I was working there was a really good opportunity to work in the marketing team. So I did that, and then I guess love at first sight, and then decided to pursue marketing from then on in. So worked a little bit in the marketing team while doing my undergrad, and then basically from a personal brand point of view, thought I'm not 100% sure on going into it yet. I think the industry is a little bit challenging right now. I'm going to beef up my kind of understanding and learnings of marketing with a maybe slightly more academic approach. Queen Margaret was wonderful from a practical sense. There was a lot of presentations and stuff like that. University of Glasgow, as you can imagine, was like completely academic, all exams, very kind of reading based. So I did that to kind of beef it up. After that, a little bit of a time of slight uncertainty, kind of bouncing about one or two roles, like, right, is this for me? Stuck it out. And then I became a digital marketing executive at the Institute of Chartered Accountants Scotland, where I pretty much own the kind of end-to-end process of email sends, which was brilliant experience. And then later became a digital marketing manager there. Then started my kind of corporate experience where I moved to Sainsbury's Bank in Edinburgh, and I was a marketing manager working on lots of different life cycle elements, and got to work with kind of MasterCard on like the Brit Awards and different competitions there, which was really interesting. And then I moved to JP Morgan Chase, where I look after both Chase and Nutmeg brands, looking after insurance and investments. So I've been doing that since April. And that's absolutely excellent experience down here in London. And yeah, I'm just kind of taking it as it comes. While I do that, I also work as a kind of volunteer marketing consultant for Falkirk Football Club as well. So, keen with marketing, both inside work and out. And then over to Sally.
Thanks, Adam. As Adam's already hinted to, my entry path into this area is slightly different from Adam's. So, I actually started out in chemistry. So, like Jess, I've got a very STEM background. So I went to University of St Andrews for 5 years. So I did my undergrad and my master's at St Andrews, both in chemistry. And during that time, I had the great opportunity to go to some great institutes to do placements and to do internships. So I went to Germany, to Ulm University, and I went to the Rosetta Institute in America, where I worked on sustainable materials. So very, very far from the world of marketing. However, when I was completing my master's, it was that time where everyone started to apply for grad schemes and for roles and for jobs. And I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do, definitely knew I didn't want to work in a lab. I'd had enough practice of that to know, but I didn't really know where I wanted to go next. And I didn't want to spend the stressful time when you're trying to write a dissertation, trying to figure out the answer to that. So I took some time and I went into a small business following university in Edinburgh called Clearo, which is a technology company. I was a data scientist there, so still following that kind of STEM route, but it gave me an introduction to the world of technology and technology management, which is where I kind of thought that I wanted to go. So within a few months of actually starting that job, I actually had my interview for Deloitte. Within their consulting practice, where I then joined them on their graduate scheme as a business analyst. I've got design in brackets there because I was really fortunate when I joined to be put onto a very creative project. So Deloitte is split into many different sections, including accounting, which most people would resonate with. Consulting is very different. We work on digital transformations. We help clients figure out what technology they need to support, solve some of their problems. And we have a very creative field. Acne Studios is part of our Deloitte digital practice. So there is some bits in there that you never really would have thought of. And I was fortunate enough on my first project to land directly in there. So I gained a lot of experience. I knew I wanted to move into that design field. And I spent those 2 years in my grad program growing my network so that I can make that move across into Deloitte Digital and into my role in service design. So in 2021, I moved across officially. I became a service designer, which for those of you who don't know and how that kind of feeds into marketing, service design looks at holistically a transformation a client might go through. So say they want to create a new app, we think about how do you market and brand that app, what needs to be on the app, how do you create the app itself, all those different bits and bobs that come together. So while it might sound like kind of a formal and corporate role, there are some branding and marketing elements that come into it. And then you can see the second part of my title is sustainability lead. So I was really interested in sustainability even in my chemistry career, and I really wanted to grow that as an area of focus for me within the work that I did as an analyst and then as a service designer. And that's how I actually started to grow my brand within the firm and be known as someone who is a specialist in that area. So you can see a couple of different roles here. So I volunteer as a board trustee in Scotland at 2050 Climate Group, where I help run it's a charity, but we also have staff that focus on how we help young people in Scotland be climate leaders. I was fortunate enough to win a Viva 100 award for my work in sustainability, and that meant that I then became part of their Sustainability Council. The key reason I'm kind of calling those out is that it kind of helps to think about, on reflection, that those were the steps that I took to build my niche and my brand as an individual, and it really helped to cement my career in my organisation now. So that's just a little bit about me, a little bit more STEM, a little bit more corporate than probably some of the other career histories that you've heard, and definitely not very marketing like Adam's, but it just shows there's different routes that people come into the industry and different ways that you can learn about it. So we're going to talk a lot about confidence in today's session, and it would be good to get an understanding of kind of where everyone's at in terms of their own feelings and how confident they feel within their roles or within their kind of only self-expression of confidence at the moment. So what we're going to do is just do a little bit of a sense check. So if you can maybe use the chat, and we're going to go from a scale of maybe 0, where you feel like you have zero confidence, you're not very confident at all, to 5, where you feel like you are very confident as an individual in your career right now, just to get a feel for where everyone's at the moment before we dive into the content. Oh, Mel, you don't even need to be here. Great, we've got a lot of confident people in the room. Some a little lower. I would definitely put myself sometimes a little bit lower, so good to see that we've got a mix.
I would generally say as well, Sally, my confidence levels differ from like what day a week it is. Like there's a little bit of a bell curve, it gets going all the way up until like Wednesday or Thursday. And then the Monday is normally a little bit less because, it's the start of the week and it can be quite daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunday scaries. We already talked about that earlier today. Brilliant. That's really helpful to get a feel for where everyone's at. So we're going to go into some of the content now, where we're going to talk through some hints and tips and things that might be relevant to you. Probably just a caveat, these are from myself and Adam's own experiences. So feel free to jump in if you don't agree, or if you can build on it from your own experience. As we said, this session is just a bit of an informal chat as we go through the content. So yeah, just jump in if you have anything you want to build on. So the reason we're talking about confidence is obviously it's important to you as an individual, but it's also important for within your role and how you grow in a mindset as well. So we've just put this quote on here. So people are perceived as being 28% more competent and 34% more trustworthy when they're confident, even if that confidence is unjustified. That might not sit well as you as a quote, so someone's being untrustworthy, but you still trust in what they say. But it just shows you the power of being able to portray that confidence in the right way and how it can set you up for success within your career as well. We're going to talk through a few different tips of how you can radiate that confidence in the workplace, and we'll touch on as well how that kind of links into your personal brand as we go. So we'll talk about preparation tools, so things that you can be doing to make sure you feel prepared. We'll talk about how you embrace setbacks and thinking about preparing to fail and what that means. We'll talk about elevator pitches and how you can use those as a tool and asset, how to become more visible within the workplace and create that identity for yourself, talking the talk, which I will leave you to think about what that means until we get there, and then imposter syndrome, something that I think we all face at different points in our career. So we'll talk about ways to combat that, and what that is as well, if that's a new phrase to you. So elevator pitches. Has anyone heard of an elevator pitch before? No. I always get shaked heads at this. You've all done one in one way or another. Oh, Fatma, you have? Do you want to jump in and give your description of it?
I guess it's just a way to introduce yourself in a way that I think makes you like stand out a little bit, kind of like selling yourself to a company or a position. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And it sounds really simple when you say it, but it's actually so important. So an elevator pitch is effectively a concise and compelling way to introduce yourself, or sometimes an idea as well. And it's typically delivered in the time frame of an elevator ride. So sometimes that's why it's referred to as an elevator pitch. So it's usually between 30 to 90 seconds, depending on the setting. It's a really quick fire introduction to who you are, short and snappy and memorable. There's a few different things that make a good elevator pitch. And the reason that I'm talking this through is that when we get to the end, we'll reflect on it, but it is actually a really important thing to think about, even if it does feel self-explanatory. So you want to be able to give a quick introduction. So as we said, short, snappy, and memorable about yourself. But you also want it to be structured. So sometimes if you're put under pressure and someone asks you to introduce yourself, it does come out as a bit of a jumble. So you want to think about what is the structure of how you want to introduce yourself. It should be unique. So you want to consider more than just your job title and role. So as both myself and Adam alluded to at the start, we've all got different types of titles for our role. Sometimes I'm called a senior consultant, but when I speak to my clients, they have no idea what that means. And most of you on this call will have no idea what that means. So you want to think about a way that describes you, what are your relevant skills, what's your experience, what's the value that you're going to bring, in a way that makes sure that it's clear the impact that you want to bring, and what you want to be able to do within your role as well. So it's thinking beyond that job title and role. You also want to be remembered. So if you think about your elevator pitch in the sense of a networking event, you will meet so many people. And if you're anything like me, it's really hard to remember everyone afterwards. It's usually their name, their job, where they work, and maybe a little bit more information. It's that little bit more information that tends to make you remember them. So, say I bumped into Adam at a networking event and I'd never met him before, and it was a sea of Adams, and it was many people with the same role, the same job title, etc. But I know Adam likes to climb mountains and is doing a charity event raising money to climb up Kilimanjaro or something. I'm going to remember who he is and what he's passionate about because I've had that little bit of information that helps me remember him. And then finally, adapt. There'll be different settings where you use this introduction in different ways. So if you're meeting a partner in a business versus if you bump into a new colleague in the elevator, for example, it's a very different pitch that you'll be giving. So you want to focus on the length, the amount of detail that you're going to give, and that's going to adapt to the situation and the audience. So for example, my introduction today on this call would be quite different to the introduction I give to a client where I'm talking to them about the experience that I'm going to bring and how I'm going to help them. That might sound all the abstract, so we're going to put it into practice. So I'm going to go through my elevator pitch, and then I'm going to ask Adam to do the same. I will say that he was voluntold to do this, so take it easy on him. And then if anyone wants to give theirs a go, there's some time and space to do that, but also equally, if you want to like jot down some thoughts and share them with us after the session for some feedback, we're happy to do that too. So I'm going to give you my elevator pitch. The scenario that I am is that I am at one of my company's social events and I'm talking to a senior manager from a different department. So this is how I would start off. Hi, I'm Sally. I'm a service designer within our Deloitte digital practice, and I've been within the firm for about 5 years now. I focus mainly on our public sector and sports clients, but I'm really passionate about growing our sustainability practice across the firm. I've gained a lot of experience in this from very external positions. So my BEMA work with their Sustainability Council, also here in Scotland, where I volunteer with a charity to help equip young people with the tools to be climate leaders. But I know that your part of the business focuses on ESG reporting, and I'm really keen to learn more about it. Would you be open to grabbing a coffee sometime? Sounds very simple when you put it like that, but it is structured, and you can see that I've thought about the different points that I'm going to go through, why it's relevant to the person that I'm speaking to, and it also opens the way for that future connection as well. They're going to remember me more than just service designer at Deloitte. They're going to remember that I'm really passionate about sustainability, and hopefully that means that individual would come back to me and get in touch with me again if it's relevant for them. No pressure, Adam. Do you want to give
Yeah, no
it?
pressure at all. And sorry, I've not mentioned Mount Kilimanjaro in my elevator pitch, which Sally said earlier. So that is not a thing I have done or will do. So apologies. But I am Adam. I'm a data-driven CRM manager working in a top-tier bank who specializes in growing customer bases through an expert knowledge of email, push, and in-app, ensuring that the right customers get the right messages in the right place at the right time. Short and snappy.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. So hopefully that gave you a couple of examples of what an elevator pitch is, why it's important, how it can be useful. Does anyone on the call want to give one a go? I know this is super pressurizing because you've only just learned about it. No, okay, that's fine. If not, that's fine. If not, if we have time at the end, maybe we'll come back and we'll see if anyone wants to do them once we've gone through the content. But as I said, if anyone wants to have a think about what theirs might look like, share across some bullets to myself or Adam, very happy to have a look and have a think through it with you. So our next section we're going to talk about preparing to fail. So this in essence is effectively looking at how we embrace setbacks and how we think about the benefits that can come from them. Failure is always something that everybody wants to shy away from, but there are many benefits to failing, and sometimes it's important that we go through those steps and we think about it and we learn from those experiences. I will say in my experience in my past like 5, 6 years in my career, I have failed so many times, and they've been the most important things in growing me as a person and growing my experience. So it's really important that we think about how we feel and how we learn from those failures. So there's a few different sections that I want you to talk to about this. So it's really all about embracing those setbacks and thinking about how do we learn from them. So the first is around shifting perspective. So think about, instead of the negative outcome, view setbacks as valuable points to learn from, and how you would improve. And then most importantly, these are things that you can learn from that you wouldn't have really learned from success alone. So when something does go wrong, it gives you an experience that you maybe wouldn't have had if everything had gone perfectly. And that's really important to reflect on and think about, how could I do this differently and how could I learn from that? Proactive preparation, again, some of these might sound simple, but anticipate the challenges that you might have. Before you start a task, consider the potential obstacles, think about brainstorming some solutions beforehand, and always have a backup. So, for example, if you're going to have a really important meeting with a client in a few weeks, you need to book a room. Maybe go check that room out the day before. Does it have enough seats? Does it have the right setup? Does it have tech? I had a meeting a few weeks ago where I walked into the room and there was no tech, and I had a PowerPoint that I was going to go through. So think through those things and check them beforehand. And then even on the day, book the room maybe half an hour early so you can go in, test your laptop, make sure you can share screen. The amount of times on a Mac where I found out that screen sharing is just not compatible because it's a Mac is endless. So always kind of prepare for those eventualities. And then in terms of having a backup, in those instances, I'd actually already printed paper copies of the PowerPoints. I do that for accessibility in case people can't read the screen anyway. But it's also really useful to have, because in the instance where I went to this room and didn't have any tech, I was able to just pull out those paper copies and still run with the session, which is a useful backup to have in your hand. Obviously, if you're able to print, sometimes client confidentiality, we avoid that, but always think about those backups. Learning from experience. So when these setbacks do occur, consider what went wrong. And then think about what were the different factors of that. So that could be internal, external. There's lots of times where things go wrong and it's really out with our control, but it's important to look back and think and almost do a little bit of a retrospective analysis, maybe with your team as well, to think about what went wrong and how it could go better. A lot of the time you are as a team. So while you might feel like that failure is on you yourself, it's not. You're a team for a reason. So it's important to discuss that as a team and how you can work better going forwards. And then finally, cultivate resilience. So embrace the challenges and the opportunities to learn. I think this one's really, really important. I was very, very anxious and introverted when I started in my job, and my job is about talking to people, standing in front of a room, running exercises all day. I developed this kind of like mantra for myself, where if someone asked me to do something and it was terrifying and scary, and I automatically was like, I do not want to do that, I would force myself to do it because I thought it was scary and I didn't want to do it. So if someone asked me to present at a team meeting in front of our whole company, I would have been like, hell no. But I would say yes because I know that it scared me and it was going to help me learn. So think about how you build your own resilience and how you can kind of experiment in your career too. So what are the practical things? What are the more practical things that you could do on the day? So these are just some hints and tips. Obviously, we'll share the content afterwards so you can look back on these. So the first is all around mastering your content. So understand what it is that you're talking about. That sounds really simple, but it's often overlooked. When you're a little bit stressed about something, you're maybe pitching a new piece of work, you're feeding your work back to your line manager. You always tend to think about, oh, I need to rehearse this, I need to practice this, I want to get this perfect. Sometimes you actually forget to take the time and actually understand the content that's within there. Sometimes maybe you haven't even written it and you're just presenting it for another colleague, but it's important to take that time and think about, do I actually know everything about this content? And if I don't, go and talk to your team so that they can help you to understand it. Anticipate questions. People will always have questions. Brainstorm what those might be. I also find ChatGPT sometimes useful. Again, think about the content you're putting in, nothing client confidential. But if you say you're running a session on X, Y, and Z, what kind of questions could I expect? It'll actually give you a list of questions and you can think about what your answers might be to those. And then practice makes perfect. So rehearse your content until you feel comfortable. And I think that part is really important. Some people want to rehearse a lot. Some people don't want to rehearse that much at all. I'm a bit in between. If I do too much, I get really anxious. So sometimes you just need to find that ground for yourself. Don't feel like you need to over rehearse something if it doesn't feel right for you. Next section is around plan for success. So organize your thoughts, think about how you're actually going to logically talk through your different points that you're going to put across. A really useful framework that I use is called the MECE framework, which is mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. I won't go into it in detail, but give it a wee Google. Effectively, it's a very well-known framework for how you think about the key point you want to put across, but then how do you actually build out your different points that contribute towards that and the evidence that goes along it. And it's a really useful tool for just building out the structure of how you want to get your points across in a really concise way. Visualize success. So it's always, everyone always thinks about the negative outcome, but it's sometimes useful to just look ahead and think about what does success look like for me? What would it look like if this went really, really well? And that helps to build your confidence on the day as well. Embracing continuous learning. So we talked a little bit around this already, but feedback is your friend. I know we all hate it, especially constructive feedback. We don't like to hear that we're doing things not in the best way possible, but when they're from trusted colleagues and mentors, it is really helpful to talk that through with them and identify areas for improvement. And I would say, regardless of how senior you ever get in your role, there's always room for improvement and you should always be getting constructive feedback. My managers still get it and I'm still happy to give it to them and they're very supportive of that as well. Celebrate your successes. So sometimes it's really easy to just move on to the next thing and forget that you've hit a key milestone or that you've done something that maybe was one of your goals that you've been working towards. So always take the time to be proud of what you've achieved. And then I think the final one is all around projecting your confidence. So think about the different things that go into that, like I call this posing power, or power posing. Practice your stance and body language and consider what makes you feel more comfortable and how you're going to radiate confidence. When I first started presenting, I would usually hold my hands to my side and kind of fidget with them. And it was really distracting for other people. And now I tend to move my hands around a lot when I'm talking. It's less distracting, it looks more confident, but it's more comfortable for me as well. So it's a way of standing and presenting that just makes me feel more comfortable as well as projecting that confidence at the same time. Dress for success. So wear an outfit that makes you feel confident and professional, and it's going to have a significant impact on your self-assurance. Me and Adam have talked about this a few times, but even on days when we're sitting at home, we're not feeling that confident, just putting on something smart that you feel comfortable in makes you feel much more confident in yourself. And that doesn't have to be a suit or a shirt. It could be just something that makes you feel more comfortable and makes you feel more at ease. And then remember your nonverbal. So think about eye contact, what you're doing with your hands, where you're standing when you're actually presenting. If you're not sure what you do when you present or when you play things back, ask a team member to watch out for it the next time you present. Ask them that you're going to want some feedback on it and you want to develop it. And I'm almost 100% sure they would love to help support with that. So I've now talked quite a lot. Again, if there are any questions, just drop them in the chat. But I'm now going to hand over to Adam, who's going to talk a little bit around talking the talk.
Yes, and by the way, Sally, like that's super interesting. And just to go off the back of that, feedback I would have is like, just don't worry. And that feeds into my first point, which I'll talk about. Like that's what processes are there for. Like if you put processes in place, you fail and you succeed as a team. So like don't worry about that. Fail fast, and have a solutions-based mindset. It's like don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. As long as you do that always, like you're gonna be you're gonna put yourself in good stead. Um so talking the talk. What I will say, I'll preface with the fact that, Sally and I come from big corporates. So this will have a lens of that over it. Sorry if some of it's a little bit too on the nose, but what I would say is I definitely still do quite a lot of these things, and I need to constantly remind myself not to do it and to be, confident, professional, etc., on a day-to-day basis. But little practical tips that I will remind you of, and I'll chat you through. Um, one of the key areas to communication in the workplace is obviously like written communication. You'll likely use this a lot, particularly if you're working remotely. It can be up there with the most important communication platform for reflecting confidence to your audiences. I think particularly with my generation, and well, there's now a lot of younger generations, but younger generations for me, um, writing professionally can be a bit of a challenge. Like colloquialisms have become a lot more mainstream, using very relaxed language. And yeah, younger generations have changed the way they communicate quite drastically. So this professional form of writing can be quite, unfriendly sounding. But you basically just need to get confident in professional writing, and you will sound more confident within that kind of area. Um, Teams and Outlook are very different, I'd say. So I'm not going to cover Teams here. I think Teams still just be mindful or whatever, messaging service you guys use at work. Just be mindful that there could be a trail. So don't be too relaxed. Kind of walk that fine line. But in terms of Outlook, still very much formal. I think the themes here are being authoritative, being assured, professional, get your point across concisely. And at all times, just imagine you're talking to someone in a real position of power and be consistent about this. The first point, which, as I say, kind of comes off the back of what Sally was chatting about, is especially kind of prudent within a bigger organization. Worry less about, making a mistake or reaching out to someone via email. Like it can be really daunting if you're reaching out to just some random individual in a random team across the business, but you'll develop your own style. You'll develop an understanding of, what's relevant and appropriate. And at the end of the day, everyone is there to do their jobs and do the best that they can do. So worry less and being more natural and worrying less will benefit you in the long run. This is one that I still do, and I have to remind myself, like, Adam, what are you apologizing for? You're just emailing someone. Um, just remember again, like everyone else, you're there to do a job, so are they. Apologizing too much kind of undermines what you're there to do. So try as much as you can not to kind of, particularly starting an email with like, "Oh, sorry to get in touch." You're just doing your job. Don't worry about it. Don't respond in the heat of the moment. This is like some of the best advice I've ever been given, and I have to say, like when I've been looped in, perhaps on like a conversation where there's something I fundamentally disagree with, or the tone's a little bit off, is one that kind of gets me. Um, a key to remaining professional and coming across as confident is not letting your emotions get the better of you. Stepping away and replying later is the best kind of protocol. And something I do quite frequently is I'll talk to like a line manager or even a colleague about like my drafted reply. And they'll basically say that, right, that's brilliant or that's not. So coming back with a considered and professional response, particularly when it's been a little bit heated, will make you seem a lot more assured, a lot more confident, a lot more professional. And yeah, it will put you in really good stead. A really funny one, and Sally and I talked about this before, is would you be happy for this to be read out in court? This is a very corporate point. So if you guys ever move into corporate, then you can think of this. But a lot of bigger companies have audit trails, and things can get pulled out if there's, like an incident, something happens, you need to look at, a process a couple of months later. So when you're sending an email, drafting an email, whatever, um, would you be happy for this to be used in an audit trail? Is it professional enough? Does it meet that bar and work from there? I guess that's the highest bar there is, so it's a good bar to have. On email, I would refrain as much as possible from using emojis. Like they're becoming more and more mainstream, so it can be tricky. But what I use is like if I second guess myself, I just don't use them. I've seen them on like internal comms and that sort of things, but like just general email day to day, I wouldn't really use them. Filler words and exclamation points are other elements that again I have to stop myself and be like, right, Adam, don't use these. Filler words are basically if I am going up to you guys, I'm saying, hey, I'm Adam, I'm just a CRM marketing manager for JP Morgan Chase. Compared to, hi, I'm Adam, I am a CRM marketing manager for JP Morgan Chase. The second just sounds a lot better. And that's just removing the just, the only. You're brilliant, you're doing your job, you're a great professional, you're not just anything, you're doing what you do. So removing words like very, really, just, only can benefit it massively, and it just takes away from the complication of the message. It makes it way more to the point. So try and do that. Exclamation points, I love. I try to use them as much as possible. I try to have that Labrador approach of being super friendly. But now I've said to myself, look, Adam, you can only have one an email. So I'll normally start my emails with like, hey, like, I hope you're well, exclamation point, done. And then I've used it. I don't use them any more than that because I just feel like they come across maybe not as professional, particularly in a corporate environment, and a little too relaxed. So that's my opinion on that. Read over your emails. That's a really simple one, but it's something that you can forget to do. We send out emails to like 1.2 million customers sometimes, and I treat my Outlook emails the same as if we were to be doing a send to 1.2 Chase customers at one point. I just look quickly normally at the name, file, subject line, sign off, start to finish kind of important parts of the email. And that's kind of good enough. I do a scan, but just make sure you're checking because if you're consistently making errors in emails, it doesn't come across well or confident of you. A couple others that I've not got here, but I'd like to call out are drawing a line and being comfortable with like shutting off from work. So within work hours, I have Teams, and I do admittedly have email on my phone. But I think being confident is also about like drawing a line between work and your kind of personal time. So please, like within your own time, feel free to shut off from Teams, Outlook, as long as obviously that's appropriate. But creating a boundary is a really strong thing to do. And once you've drawn that boundary, you're going to have that, that's going to be stuck. People will realize, right, we can't talk to such and such out with work hours, and it'll put you in good stead. It makes you seem strong. Um, and Mel's posted something in chat there. Pushing back and setting expectations is another one in terms of like talking the talk. Even if it's just a filler message, like if you are slammed and you can't get around to something, I always just try and send a quick message saying like, "Hey Sally, I won't get around to this, in the next week, but I'll be happy to pick it up with you next week." That filler message is so powerful, and it makes you seem like you're organized. You are managing your time, and you're aware you've received whatever the ask is. I always look at under promise, over deliver. That's a mantra I live by. I would encourage you to kind of, if you're talking the talk, do that as much as you possibly can. Um, Next slide, unless there's any questions on that one. Cool. So becoming visible. I'm not gonna lie, I don't love it personally, like visibility. I think there's a lot of ways people can kind of be more apparent and obvious in their work. Visibility just seems like it is in person, and some people aren't really like that, but it's what's used in most organizations. So I'll go off of that. I've come up with some key areas of how to do it. The first of which is look out for opportunities, both inside and outside of work, wherever you can. It can be super minor, or it can be a bit more time consuming, whatever your capacity for extra work is. At work, it can be really small, like taking notes at meetings and sharing these around. Um, like there's tools for these now. Just make sure that your workplace is comfortable with using tools for logging stuff during a meeting. But you can do that, send it around. That adds a lot of value and makes you visible because it's an extra task. Um, chiming up in meetings can be useful, but only if you're that sort of person and you're actually adding value. I think it can go the other way. But if you've got something to say and you think it'll be, useful, like speak up. Often, like when you speak up in a meeting, you can be given extra responsibilities just off the back of, speaking up there, which is super useful. Um, this is a little bit more time consuming, but really good. Joining clubs or committees, you'll likely surround yourselves with like-minded individuals. Be really good for networking and building relationships, for your visibility in the wider firm. Would 100% advocate for that. And just own something. This could be big, small, um, whatever, but it will definitely increase your stature in the company. This could be owning a relationship, a vendor, a process, a particular specialism, all of those things. Pick one up, and you will be the go-to person for that going forward, which is really useful. Outside of work, don't be afraid to do this either if you've got the time to do it. It'll grow your network, give you different experiences because sometimes you're just very much in the process of your current workplace. And you may be able to go back to that workplace and provide later learnings and stuff, which is great, like inside and out. You're benefiting yourself and you're benefiting the organization. And this could also be like, Sally and I get involved in the Marketing Society of Scotland, flag, for example, which is wonderful. Or like a volunteering piece as well, like for example, what I do with Falkirk Football Club. The second point here is find your niche and just learn like as much as you can on that specific topic continuously. It leads quite nicely on from the previous one. Like find something you enjoy, and this will come across as you being really confident on it. Because if you love it, you'll want to spend more time on it. And if there's like, it doesn't matter how small it is. I've seen people gain like expertise on like iOS, and the difference between like CRM performance in iOS, or it could be like CRM performance between email clients. It could be something really, really small and geeky, but you then become the go-to person for that. So if you become an expert, that's your visibility marked right up. It could be something more comprehensive. If you're the only marketing person within an organization, you own a platform, you become an expert in that platform, like GA, Google Analytics, or your email um, sender platform, something like that. Practice your communications as frequently as you can. So good communication just from the get-go will improve your work reputation. And something that, the best leaders throughout my career so far have done is prioritized and practice communication continually. Although I'd encourage people with leadership aspirations to practice proper kind of presentation skills. It's not necessarily like all you have to do for communication. There's other examples of this that can make you feel valuable and visible. So just good communication verbally with your peers and managers, that's a really good skill to have. Good written communication, which we touched upon in the last slide. Good at creating decks. Some of the most visible people within the organizations that I've worked with have been the people that own decks, and basically pull those together for upper management. So that is a wonderful one as well. But I'd say like if you feel comfortable to do so, get into a habit of championing your work, and shouting about that, practicing your communication. I've done X, create a couple of slides on it, shout about it, and that'll rocket you to the top in terms of visibility. This is a really big one, actually. Own your progress and keep track of it. At the end of the day, you're your own champion. And if you don't champion yourself, others might not. So just make sure that you are like keeping track of what you're doing, logging it down. Um, if you're busy growing and taking the initiative to do so, it'll be noticed by the wider organization. Prioritize it and book it into your time, whether it's learning, attending events like the flag or that sort of thing. Make sure you actually have it booked into your diary to improve yourself. And Sally touched upon this. Ask for feedback as much as you possibly can. This is so beneficial and reflects confidence. Something I do quite frequently, and I try and learn from as well because growth's the most important thing, particularly for yourself. Um, Within a bigger organization, sorry, as I say, log what you're doing as much as possible. We've got like document services. So we basically create pages on like, this is what we've done. This is our kind of work in progress at the moment. It shows how much you've achieved, which is super useful because you can often forget. So it's a really good motivational tool to be like, right, I've done this in the last couple of months. And this can be really useful in bigger organizations for, like mid-year annual review stuff as well. This is a controversial one, and Sally and I kind of chatted about it quite a lot. But it's be present. So I played about with this, and I want to clarify what I mean by this. So, in the world of kind of hybrid working and working from home and that sort of thing, um, I don't mean to be like an old schooler, like go into the office every single day, go in 5 days a week. That is not what I mean at all. You could go into the office 3 or 4 days, no one will know you're there. You go to your desk, you sit down, that is it. What I mean here is be present and make the most of the days that you're going into the office. You could go in one day every 2 or 3 weeks, but going in for big meetings, saying hello to your colleagues, literally going up to them, asking them how they're doing, progressing relationships, super important on those days that you can go into the office. And from what I've chatted to like different leaders about throughout my career, this goes into two different areas of adding value and being super visible. Get to know your business and how it really works. What are the KPIs? What are the processes? What runs the business? Like revenue, customer satisfaction, etc., etc. Because as soon as you know how that works and you start getting into those little points, you'll be adding value every single day. And another key one, always prioritize building relationships every day. And that will help you become more visible. Next slide. Imposter syndrome. This is just kind of a quick one on this. And it's just to say, like, everyone has imposter syndrome, whether it's, a very junior member of the team or all the way up to your kind of like CMOs and stuff. They've all experienced it. So my general tip is like to talk about it. There's a lot of really useful kind of events and stuff where you can talk to very like-minded individuals through like the Marketing Society Scotland events. There's Amplify, Digital Day, getting involved in Flag. You've got brilliant leaders there in Marie Owen. You've got Paul Mingus, Pam Scobie. Learning from them and talking to people at these events will help your imposter syndrome because they are going through the same things that you're likely going through. And mentoring is amazing. Finding someone, whether it's a formal or informal mentor, that can sit down for a coffee with you, will benefit you massively. And you'll be in a headspace where they've been through the same things. Not to worry. Everyone experiences that. And it's just talking through that does that for you. And it comes back to always prioritize building relationships. This will help you in so many different ways across your careers. And I think that's my slides. On to the next one. And now it's back to you. So yeah, any questions on any of the above? And Sally and I are happy to chat you guys through.
Go for it, Ollie.
I just wanted to ask you in regards to the visibility and also owning your own personal time. How long did it take you guys to sort of find that balance? Because sometimes when we're talking to the other junior members of the team, some of our colleagues are like, you guys are always present, and sometimes you almost give up too much of your own time. Like, we get it that you want to be visible, but also we want to preserve, your personal stuff going on. So I just wanted to find out about your personal experiences and how do you find that balance?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I can probably give a quick reply and then let Adam jump in on his own reflections. But I think it's really important to find the balance. I know in my first early years in my firm, I did it the wrong way and I was just keen to be in everything and I didn't really set the boundaries that I should have set. And it felt like at times probably bordering on like burnout because I was just doing too much while trying to do my job at the same time. So it's really important to set those boundaries. I think like talk to your managers about how you set some time aside for it. So I remember very vividly having a conversation with my line manager about these things I wanted to do above and beyond my role to grow my own kind of like passion areas and get more involved with things within the organization. And they were very understanding of that. And they said, you know, block out half a day on a Friday to focus on those things and make sure you use that time to do it. Don't like go and do client work if you want to focus on that time. Use that time effectively, but set that as your boundary that you only use that time. And then focus on what the things are that you really want to get involved in. So it's really easy to get involved in like 5 or 6 different things because you're helping people. But think about the ones that are going to be that you're most passionate about, but are also going to have the most impact. So if you're running a social event, is that as impactful as writing up a report for someone really senior within the firm? And is that going to help you get to where you want to get to in terms of your own development within the organization? So I think it's set your boundaries, but also think about where you want to go and do these extra things that you're doing help you on your pathway to getting there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would actually echo like quite a lot of that, setting your boundaries early, super important for like, future stuff. Communication's key again and like escalating it. Like as long as you're communicating with your line managers and the senior leadership teams that this is what you want to do, you're doing that frequently, then eventually they'll understand. So that's quite important. Something really good that was done for me from a few different people is putting in like a semi-frequently like progression meeting. And it's not on anything to do with the organization, it's simply to do with growth. So recommending that to a line manager could be a good step where you meet up for an hour every quarter and set like self kind of progression goals, improvement goals, and it's not to do with work. It's not related to any of your core KPIs. That is a super useful session. And book these in the diary, like make the most of your work time, like book it straight out. Obviously, as Sally says, it's a prioritization piece because you might actually need to deliver other stuff, but if there's scope to do that, book it in, and that is your time to develop. Be strict about it.
And just to chime in to what Adam was saying, if those kind of practices aren't in place in your place of work presently, be the one to chime in and say, look, I think we should have these, because it then shows that your willingness to grow and your willingness to learn, and actually making you visible to your managers, to your owners, whatever have you. Be the ones to suggest it. We at Lux, for example, have weekly team catch-ups on a Monday, and we find those are actually some of the best ways to communicate what it is we're working on, what it is we need help with. And actually, it's a really great way of building confidence. And it's helped me particularly build my confidence, because I'm able to say to my own team, this is actually where I might need some support on. This is what I've got going on this week. Maybe we can catch up at XYZ times in the month, and, just keep the communication lines open. It's one thing I just wanted to chime in. Sorry for taking over, Adam.
Amazing. Thank you all.
Anything else from anyone? Please let me know, Mel, if we're running out of time as well.
No,
Okay.
we're fine. We're all good.
Anyone else?
Again, if anyone has any questions or anything that they think of after this, we will be, communicating with everyone afterwards. So feel free to like send us emails. I'll pop all the details in when it gets to it. But no pressure to ask anything now. If you can't think of anything, that's totally fine. Okay, in that case, we will wrap up, if that's okay. Just a couple of dates for everyone's diaries. We have our St. Andrew's Day dinner, our annual St. Andrew's Day dinner, which is taking place for the first time ever in Glasgow this year. So it's taking place at the Doubletree Hilton, Wednesday, 27th of November. I'll just let you back in. 27th of November. Please do speak to your teams. If you know that your organization is a business team or a corporate member of the Marketing Society, speak to your team, see if you come in, try and get an invite, because it's a great way to network. We also have the final event of the year, which is our festive drinks, which is taking place at the Scotsman Hotel in Edinburgh, Thursday, 5th of December. All of our events for the year are posted on the Marketing Society website, and also in our comms, our newsletters, WGO, SOM, etc. So please just keep an eye out for any updates on those platforms. We also, if you're not part of it already, I think a couple of you are, but we also have the wider Future Leaders WhatsApp group. This is not just Future Leader members. We also have a couple of first role level members in that group as well. It's a great way to just keep connected to the wider group. We post event updates in there. We just pop catch up notifications in there, general chat. It's just a nice kind of port of communication that we've set up for our members. So if you're not a member, please scan the QR code and join us. It'd be lovely to have you on the group. And also just to finally say, just to touch upon this, I know that there is a couple of members on this call who have signed up for mentoring. If you haven't signed up for mentoring and you are feeling very much kind of on an island in your organization, I know Jodie, for example, you're the only marketing exec in your company and you can't get that kind of back and forth with anybody else in your team, mentoring is the way to do that. So please sign up. We'll pair you with someone who's maybe a little bit more advanced career-wise with you. You can bounce off them. We suggest meeting 4 times a year. It can be more, it can be less than that, but it's just a great way to get some feedback from someone else who's not directly involved with you. So do sign up, and I'll pop information in the feedback email, which will be coming, if not later today, then tomorrow. So when you get that feedback email, please do fill it in. We take your feedback seriously. We like to look at all the topics that people suggest, things that we want to cover in these sessions. It's really valuable to us and to our speakers, so please do fill it in. And I will stop yapping. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thanks again to Sally and Adam for your time. It's been great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.